The goal in your life is not to figure out how to be comfortable in your mental prisons, but to realize that you have the keys to set yourself free. Hey, welcome to How to Be Mesmerizing. It's Tim Shurr, and today we have an incredible guest with us. I'm so excited, all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa. We have Justin Cohen with us. Justin, woo!
Tim, that was about the most enthusiastic introduction I've ever had, so thank you.
Thank you for being on the program today. So I'm very excited. Justin is a world-class speaker. He's in the Hall of Fame and as a speaker in Africa, and he has written a number of amazing books, which we're going to dive into. He was a TV show host. I mean, this guy is really contributing in a big way, and I had to have him on the program. So Justin, I'm glad you're here. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so you've written several books, and I have questions for a few of them. One of your books is Pitch to Win. Right? And you say that it's all about, it's not the most talented people that will get the deal or create the business or, get on TV. It's the person who has the best pitch. So can you explain in your words what it means to pitch somebody and what makes people stand out when they're doing so?
Yeah, so Tim, I got into this really for myself. I never thought that I'd write a book or do a program. I had a number of books out already. I was doing a number of programs. My mission, the reason I'm on this planet, is to equip and inspire people and organizations to realize their potential. And what I realized is that I was not realizing my own potential and fulfilling my mission because I didn't know how to pitch. I didn't know how to sell. And in fact, selling was kind of something that I didn't want to do. I didn't think I needed to do it. I sort of thought salespeople were those other people. That wasn't me. And when I was not bringing in the business, I got frustrated. And I figured I needed to get this right. And I think we've all been there. When I ask audiences now, have you ever been with a potential client convinced that you had the best product, best offering, you just knew that you could slam dunk this for them, but you didn't get it. In fact, lost it to somebody who was offering less, maybe even at a higher price. And almost everybody has been there. I think we can all look around us and see people who don't seem to have as much value who are doing better. And that's the pitch. And that was when I realized it's not enough having the best product. You've got to have the best pitch. I love writing books. What I realized was that I didn't know how to sell books, And so I was going to, fulfill my mission. I did not just write, but be able to pitch as well.
Yeah. So you talk about the mindset of people who are the most successful at pitching. So what's the difference between people who are really good at convincing others to work with them or to take that next action? What's the difference between people who can get that done and people who struggle?
So Tim, I've got a 6-step formula, and this was the formula that I built for myself. I applied it. My results exponentially increased. I pitched and won my own CNBC Africa television talk show. I thought mission accomplished, and then a client brought me on to do a keynote presentation. First it was IBM. IBM run one of the biggest entrepreneurship competitions in the world. It's called IBM Smart Camp. And they asked me to work with a little startup from Kenya who were going through to the semifinals now, and they wanted to see if I could help them to tell their story. And like many entrepreneurs, they had a really great business, but they didn't know how to communicate it. And really what I helped them do, it's one of the key steps is tell their story, right? And so kind of we get so belabored with facts, and the story is the way to create an emotional connection. And that's critical. And so this little stuff, not a lot was expected of them. They landed up winning the semifinals, went to New York City. Mayor Michael Bloomberg was presiding. They landed up winning the entire competition and actually gave this method some of the credits in that. And I'll tell you something amazing. I still didn't think that I was going to teach it. I hadn't written the book yet at that point because most of my work is in corporate. I now do a lot of work with entrepreneurs, but at the time I was doing more work with corporate. Then I get a call from Ernst & Young, EY, the accounting firm. I'd done a keynote at their Pan-African conference. CEO says, listen, we got to pitch for one of the big banks. We think we got a less than 20% chance of winning this, so we want to try something different. And he knew that because story, my previous book was on story and the power of story for culture building and for learning and development and marketing. So he could see that there was something about story that they might be able to use. Now, I was a little nervous. I mean, story, getting creative about a quality audit. I mean, it does not get more commoditized than a quality audit. You know, you want to get creative with auditing. That's what happens before you go to prison. You know, like it's about that. And I said to him, I played open cards. I said, look, and also accountants, no disrespect, but accountants aren't renowned as the most scintillating communicators. And he said, no, I get it. Let's try. Anyway, worked with them. Amazing. This was what was so heartwarming for me, is that it is a formula. It's a 6-step formula. These guys applied the formula, and then ended up getting a standing ovation from fellow auditors, and they won this deal. And that was finally when the penny dropped for me, because I realized that my mission is to equip and inspire people to realize their potential. If you can't pitch your potential, you can't realize your potential. And so now I wrote a book. This is the book that came out last year. And I now do this extensively. And yeah, it's a formula. And, you know, we can talk a little bit about it. But I do want to say this. For me, Tim, you know, I think people resist selling for 2 main reasons. I think when they say they hate selling, they're saying they hate rejection. And we have to get over this rejection thing, because it's on the other side of rejection that the deal is done. Anyone who has ever achieved anything of any value has overcome adversity, difficulty, and obstacles. You know, I had the privilege to interview on my TV show one of your great American patriots, Dr. John Maxwell. And Maxwell's written a lot of great books, but my favorite book, probably the favorite book in the personal development genre really, would be Failing Forward. And Failing Forward is about all these, you know, people who, he talks to this one guy, he's 38 years old, he's been dumped, he's gone bankrupt, and you think loser. And he's talking about Harry Truman. 8 years later, he becomes president. Yeah. So for me, what was really important, and you spoke a bit about mindset, is understand. I mean, this book is called Pitch to Win. It should be called Pitch to Lose and Lose and Lose and Lose so that you can win.
Brilliant.
Because it's actually in business, familiarity doesn't breed contempt. Familiarity breeds sales, right? That is actually, it takes time for us to feel comfortable enough before we're willing to buy. So for me, that was really exciting, because I'd always understood the power of mindset, and I now saw how important it was in pitching. So people, when they say they don't like selling, they're usually saying they don't like failure. Fine, get over that. Understand that it's on the other side. Learn to love failure. Fail, you know, as the old saying in Silicon Valley, fail often, fail often. What is the Silicon Valley?
First, fail. Yeah, fail first, fail fast, fail.
Fail fast. Thank you. Fail fast, fail often. And I got to tell you something, Tim. I'm going to do a little shout out to you and your fellow Americans. This whole field, this whole personal development field, it was given birth in the United States. You know, the first self-help books. It was the ethos of self-reliance, of getting out there and making it happen. And I'm immensely grateful to, even when I look at my background in psychology, all the great work. It's not coming out of Oxford or Cambridge. It's coming out of Harvard and Princeton and Yale and Stanford. And so, you know, I feel we owe gratitude to the United States. I truly do. I truly believe that. So, you know, here I am. I hadn't been to the States before my 20s, and yet I was being influenced by all these, you know, these great ideas that have really transformed my life. So anyway, that was a little bit of a shout out to you and your beautiful country. But the other thing I think is, when people say they hate selling, is they hate taking. Because if you feel that selling, if you're a good person and you don't want to be a taker, and you think of pitching as going out there and taking their money and taking their deal, your brain is going to sabotage you, right? So we got to understand what selling actually means. And you go to the origin of the word. The word comes from the Old English selan, and selan means to give. Great salespeople are givers. They give in great products. They give great value. They give of themselves. You know, I always say Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, these people were great at pitching. Yeah, they needed to pitch their ideas to the nation, right? They needed to pitch their, so this is not about doing a deal. This is about persuasion. This is about moving people to take action in the direction that you believe is best, for themselves, for society, for their business, for their family. I mean, I truly believe if you've got great value to give, I truly believe selling is spiritual because people say, yeah, but they pay for it. Yeah, well, we know that people don't really value what they don't pay for. So you're creating value. You're putting it out there. I truly believe that. So for me, the pitch to win model is what's core here is it's about one of the 6 keys is purpose. What is your mission? What is the difference that you're going to make? Because that's contagious. When they can feel your purpose, when they can feel that you're not, just think about it. You've got 2 people that got the same product, same price. The one you feel like they really care about you, man. They really want to make a difference. The other you feel like, yeah, they really care about their bottom line. They really care about getting the deal. Who are you going to do business with? Hands down, you want the person who really cares, right? So that's, I think, why I'm so, I never thought I'd be doing this, but I now this has become my biggest program, and I'm very happy about it because I can now, because of the way I now understand pitching and selling and what it truly is. It's something we all got to do. Hey, you got to pitch your kids on doing their homework. You got to pitch your partner where you want to go on holiday. That's what we do. We got no influence. You got no power.
Oh, wow. Justin, that was just outstanding. So there was so many golden nuggets that you just dropped for us. I'm sitting here feverishly taking notes. I love everything you said. So there's a couple of things that I want to highlight because I just loved it. So you said a quote, which is so tweetable. And it says that familiarity doesn't breed contempt, it breeds sales, right? I love that, right? That's the idea that you have to keep in front of people and continue to add value consistently. If there really is a key to success, it is consistency, right? Taking action, touch points over a long period of time.
Absolutely. Aristotle, excellence is not an act, it's a habit. You brush your teeth once, you're still going to have rotten teeth. You've got to do it every day. So I love your point about being consistent about creating value. Absolutely. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then the other one, I've never heard out of all the sales training and all the books and everything, I've never heard that the Latin root from sales is salin, to give. I thought.
And Tim, I need to do a little shout out here because that was taught to me by somebody you've interviewed. I know a hero to both of us, the great Bob Berg.
Oh, yes.
Bob brought my attention to that. And it was many years ago. And it was really it really was one of those kind of flipping the script, right? Where you just like, whoa, man, that totally transforms it, right? So yeah, we got to thank the great Bob for that.
Well, see, now that's another, so there's, not only are you teaching, but you're demonstrating and kind of show coaching the process as well, because throughout this interview, even though my focus is on lifting you up, you've spent a huge part of this program, this interview, giving shout outs to other people, right? And that is an excellent example of how you are constantly going through life, validating others. I mean, we could spend the whole entire program talking about how amazing you are, and you're taking this time to talk about how amazing other people are. And that is truly, value in action. And so I just want to point that out. Now, you said another thing too that I just love, and it's the power of stories, which you wrote another book called The Astonishing Power of Story, right? Yeah. And so you started off with a couple of amazing stories about working with, a team from, through IBM, and they ended up coming to New York and winning, which is amazing, right? And then you talk about another story with Ernest and Young, and I felt like I was going through it with you. So what are a couple of ideas that make for a compelling story?
So, and again, firstly, I kind of want to pick up on things that you said, because, firstly, thank you for acknowledging that. I do think there's a lesson there about the pitch. One of the biggest mistakes we make in the pitch is thinking it's about us. Mm-hmm. Nobody really cares about us. They care about themselves, right? And the value that they can get. They will care at us in so much as we can add value to them. And so, you know, you did a beautiful introduction, but I'm so glad that you didn't do, and I'm sure you've had it before. Sometimes you go to a conference and you get this long introduction about all your accolades. And I'm like, I start to cringe, not because I'm, you know, so humble. I'm cringing because I know the audience are bored. They don't care. Like, they want to get to the content. When people say to me, how to introduce, I'm like, hey man, just, you know, speaker and author, you know, that's cool. Let's get to it. So I think there's something there for us. It was something I had to learn, as everything. I didn't always do that, but thank you for noticing that. In terms of story, and again, I have to say this, you know, oh, man, and I'm afraid I'm going to come right back to the US, because, you know, I would maintain that one of the reasons that the United States continues to be the greatest economy on the planet is because it has attracted talent from all over the world. And I can tell you, growing up, when I first went to New York City, I thought I'd been there before. I was like, whoa, this is so weird. I don't understand. It's like I'm having deja vu after deja vu. And suddenly I realized, oh man, of course I've been here before. I've been here in every movie, every TV series. I've seen the United States through these, you know, rose-tinted glasses. And that is why I'm going to tell you, one of the biggest dreams for people around the world is to come to the US. And I think that a lot of that is based on the stories that have come out of Hollywood. I think Hollywood is the greatest advertisement for the United States. And so you only have to see the power of story. And, you know, I go into a lot of detail in this, the neuroscience. I mean, sometimes story sounds a little soft and fluffy, but if you look at the way human beings learn and how the brain works, I mean, I actually give an example of this. I show audiences just showing the brain how it lights up. When you're just giving the facts, you're actually activating far less of the brain. When you tell a story, there's a part of the brain that's been discovered called the mirror neuron network. So we mirror. The reason, you know, that feeling when you feel it when you're watching a film, you feel like you're the hero. You're watching a TV. You're there, right? It's like, man, it's like you can feel it as if you're right there. That's the mirror neuron network. So we mirror. We actually we get in the shoes of that person, right? By the way, we mirror emotions as well, right? That's why, and we'll get to this because I want to talk about the number one reason they choose one pitch over another. Number one reason, and we'll get back to that because that's got to do with emotion. But on the story side, the reason stories are so powerful is that if you just give me facts, you know, they kind of wash over me. But if you tell me a story about a client of yours who had a real problem, right? And how you came in and helped them to solve it, and how you the process that you went through, and then the success that was accomplished afterwards, that potential client is actually inside a virtual reality machine using your product or service, right?
Yeah.
And what we know from neuroscience is we actually need to see things before we make decisions to do them. We need to see ourselves doing them. So you're actually putting them in that VR machine, and they go, wow. If it's a good result, they go, wow, that's great. Now, one of the mistakes people make when they do this is they focus all on success, solution, outcome. And that's a mistake, because if you look at so my background is theater and film, and so I really studied story. And if you look at any TV series, film, there's always adversity. There's always struggle. I believe this is because that's life, you know. Life is you're either in a problem, emerging from a problem, or about to go into a problem, right? And I think that I owe a reference to that from one of the great American, always an American, it seems, clergyman who wrote the book On Purpose, whose name eludes me right now. But this concept of that actually problems are the way life educates us. And so if you tell a story with no problems, and you just talk about your solution, your success, look, here's what we know. Human beings are twice as motivated to reduce pain as increase pleasure. So nobody ever goes, my life is fantastic, amazing, brilliant, now let me pay you to change it. So that old expression, sell to the pain, I say pitch to the pain, because only when they feel the pain and they can see how through your story, you're going to show them through sharing a story about some other client perhaps, how you can overcome them, help them to overcome that pain, are they going to be motivated for your solution. So the key thing about story is emotion. People move emotionally before they move any other way, right? And that's And that brings us to the number one reason they choose one pitch over another. This is a study, it's a European study, 70 different companies. Number one reason is energy and enthusiasm.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that people, you know, and you've said this in your books, and I 100% agree with you that, and it's one of the things that makes you so charismatic is your energy, right? Your passion, it comes through. People aren't buying your pitch. They're not buying your product. They're buying you, right? They're buying the feelings that they're having when they're in your presence. And if you can take them through that emotional roller coaster, take them through the fear, the doubt, the reservation, and then all of a sudden take them into hope, right? And then take them into conviction, you know, and where it's like, I have to do this. There's really no other choice except this. Then that is when you have commitment. And so taking people through that emotional roller coaster is so powerful. And so, yeah, showing up with energy. But your stories can be the energizing factor if you don't feel like you're very energetic or charismatic or extroverted. So what you're suggesting is even like for the CPAs, you know, at Ernst & Young, you know, they're not the most dynamic speakers, but you were able to craft the story and you let the story have a life of its own.
You know, Tim, I was just now with Vodafone. Vodafone are one of the big, I don't think they have much of a presence in the US, but they're one of the biggest telco companies in the world. And I was meeting with one of their senior execs about some the pitching programs that I do with them. And he was saying, we were talking about this very thing. And he was saying, you know, but you got to understand, because like I think a lot of telcos, and I'm sure that you pick this up in the States as well, is that telcos are realizing they've actually got to become tech companies, not just telcos, right? Because we've pretty much saturated mobile, and you've got to go beyond. And he said to me, you got to understand, Justin, you know, our guys are technical guys. They are, you know, often pretty introverted. And I said to him, man, if you think that the best salespeople are all these crazy extroverts, they're not. You know, in fact, we know that the best salespeople are ambiverts. The problem is if you're an extreme extrovert, and by the way, ambivert is the kind of middle ground between introvert and extrovert. If you're an extreme extrovert, it's difficult to listen. And here's what we know: the first key to pitching is the model I use is called TOPS. The first one, the first T is tune in. Tune in. You cannot just go there with a one size fits all, right? You cannot serve them if you don't know what they need, don't know what they want, right? So the first step is you've got to really understand. You've got to listen. Best salespeople are the best listeners, right? And it's not easy to do that. We're speakers, you know, we know that. It's you know, we get up there, we're in our zone when we're speaking. And I know I've got to really, you know, I've got to really work it. Listening is not just waiting for your turn to speak, right? So that ability to really figure out, you know, where they're at is a really critical part of an effective pitch.
Yeah, it's really good. So I saw a quote before and I agree with it. And it says the best speakers and the best presenters are actually not, or the best persuaders and the best influencers are not the best speakers. They're the best listeners. And I find that to be so true. I've listened to other podcasts. I'm always listening to podcasts, right? And I've seen where some hosts on podcasts do all the talking. Right. And they've got a brilliant guest on there but they're doing all the talking. I'm like, oh, you're not getting it. Right. So,
and you are a very generous host, because you do. I mean, I also do a lot of interviews, and sometimes, you know, I mean, the truth is I love hearing your points, because I think there's a great dialogue but it is, yes, I'll leave it at that. You're very, forgiving of my continual desire to talk.
Well, I love it. I'm learning and taking lots of notes, and you know, the followers on I call them our achievers, right? That are in our community. They know what I'm going to say already. So that's why I have you, because I want them to hear what you have to say, because you have so much to offer. And so, wow. Okay. So I'm a little curious that, well, I don't want to switch gears yet. I do, but I'm going to try to stay organized. So let me ask you my next question. So one of the things that you talk about in your books and in your speaking programs, which, by the way, if you want to find more about Justin, just go to justinpresents.com. So Justin Presents timshurr.com, and that's where you can get his books, and you can book him for speaking. He needs to come into the US, so if anybody's listening and they need an amazing speaker who's going to help to pitch to win, you know, and help your teams and help your sales teams, and let's get Justin here into the States, so or get him back in, right? So anyway, so you say you have some tips for how to reduce nervousness. So, because so many people get so nervous, right? And of course, you know, public speaking is like one of the #1 fears that human beings have. So what's a suggestion that you might have for calming the old nerves?
Well, Tim, I mean, you know this, right? Public speaking is ranked as a greater fear than death, right? That means that most people would rather be in the casket giving the eulogy.
Yeah, because you can die on stage and then you have to still live through it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think it's quite interesting why it's such a fear, and maybe even just sharing that may be helpful, is that when you're up in front of an audience, so if you think our brains developed to deal with a very different environments. The caveman environment of our ancestors was really unforgiving. And if you were rejected by your tribe, you would die, right? You couldn't survive on your own. And this is why we are all hypersensitive to rejection, which, by the way, is also why people say they don't like selling, right? Because they don't want to be rejected. Because there's that caveman brain, that lower part of it, we've got a lower brain and a higher brain. That lower brain, the reptilian brain, is going, oh, you've rejected me. And in some sense, it's not conscious, but it's like, this is an existential threat, right? My survival is at stake here. And so when you go up in front of an audience, it's almost as if you're in front of the primal horde here, right? And they're going to say yay or nay. And to that caveman brain, the nay is devastating. So firstly, I find that kind of helpful, because you got to, you know, kind of say, okay, brain, you know, I know where that comes from, and I know I'm not going to die here. And in fact, when they say no, no is often the very thing that gets you to a yes, because we know that it takes on average 12 exposures to a new product or service before people will buy. So no does not mean forever, right? And so when we reframe what no means, we can also feel more at ease when we're in front of that audience. So here's the interesting thing. I used to teach, and I still do, because I deal with a lot of people who are, you know, do have a lot of fear about it. And I've got some, you know, deep breathing exercises and relaxation. And I always say to people, if you're really nervous, have a workout before you speak, because when you go for a run or you exercise, you get the adrenaline out of your blood into your muscles, right? Adrenaline is the fight or flight. And when you actually go for a run or you go to gym, you're giving your body a substitute fight or flight. So you're just going to have less adrenaline in your body after a workout. But then I saw some really interesting research, surprise, surprise, coming out of Harvard, showing that actually more powerful than relaxation is reframing. So when you go and you start to feel that nervousness, instead of going, okay, I need to stop the nervousness, breathe in, breathe out, relax, that actually creates what they call a high cognitive load. And that can actually create a little internal battle, which can backfire and create even more stress. But if instead you go, okay, I'm about to give this speech, I can feel my heart is starting to beat, right? I'm getting flushed a little. This is cool, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to share my gift with the world, man. My heart is racing a little bit to get the oxygen and the nutrients and the blood into my brain so I can think more clearly and I can share my gift with them, right? So what you do, here's what we know, is that the physiology underlying fear and excitement is the same, right? And when you reframe it as excitement, you actually see a very different, and some of this research comes from Kelly McGonigal from Harvard. You actually see a different profile in the heart. So although you've got increased heart rate, it actually is much less damaging to the heart, because we know that, you know, when the heart beats, it can be damaging. But in fact, what happens here is that the blood vessels actually open. When you're excited, your blood vessels open, allowing the blood to flow through. But when you're fearful, they actually constrict. And that's what can damage the heart. So this actually, although you still have the same sensation, it's actually a much healthier heart profile. So really what you want to do is give yourself a little pep talk. And Tim, what I find really helpful is to remind myself that it's not about me. Because when you're nervous, it's often self-consciousness. Will they like me? Won't they like me? I've made my peace. Some people are not going to like me. And, you know, I mean, I would love everybody to like me. Don't get me wrong, you know, but I accept that. But I go, you know, if they don't like me, as long as I, to the best of my ability, have shared my gift with them, because that's what your message is, that's what your product is, that's what your service is, that's, you know, you're sharing a gift. Let me put that gift out there. Whether they like me or not is not what's important here, right? It's the gift here. So it just takes the focus off you and it puts it on what's really important, right? Them and the gift that you have for them.
Brilliant. I love how you talked about reframing it, because it's not the situation, it's how you're interpreting it that matters more than anything else. And the way that you can look at that and say, hey, this adrenaline is the juice that's getting me excited to go share what I know and to share the stories that I have and that I've prepared for this and I'm ready for this. And I just got to really be brave for 15 seconds, get out the first sentence or story or joke or however you're going to start. And then from there, you'll find your groove. And, you know, and
I've got to pick up on that because I love that. And I'm going to use that. I love that. I love the way you just reframed adrenaline as juice. Like,
yes.
That is so cool, because juice is exciting and tasty. And, you know, so I love that. Thank you for that. And I also like your second point, because man, I find I'm just in a meeting talking, as I say, with this telco executive. I say, because he's concerned also about the nervousness of his team. I said, you know, the thing that creates confidence is competence. If we can get them when they're pitching, just even if it's that opening line, you said it, that opening line, or that where you know what you're going to say, you've rehearsed, you don't rehearse that whole pitch, but at least those key points, those slogans, the metaphors, that core story, and you know that so well that when you know that you know it, that's going to be one of the best things to dampen that stress response. So thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what I use. Right. So I just did a gig, and I don't know what day it is. I've lost track, but like 4 days ago, I did a program at a conference, and I was getting nervous, right? And my heart was pounding, and I'm like, of course, you know, this is, it means it matters to me. If I don't feel anything, then I'm going to lose the desire, the drive, or lose my edge. And so I want to be a little nervous. And I learned that from a lot of top performers, musicians, right? They all say that the day I don't get nervous is the day I might as well just hang it up. And so, because it means that I care, right? Yeah. And so I use that energy, and I'm sitting there, even when I'm walking up to the stage, they just introduce me, people are clapping, I'm walking up to the stage, and all I'm thinking about is the first bullet point on my list. That's all I'm thinking about, is this is what I need to say. And, you know, my first 1 or 2 steps. And if I can remember that, then everything else will fall into place. And I've been speaking for a long time, and it's still, you know, I want to make sure that I get my very first speaking point across.
100%. And that was a big lesson to me as well. When I first started, you know, as you know, people look at you. I've been doing this for maybe 20 years, and yeah, I've developed my skill set, and I'm proud of that. But I like to remind people that it wasn't always like this. You know, in the early days, I'd win sometimes, I'd lose sometimes. But what you just said there, that was such an important revelation, and it came quite late in. Get those first couple of lines, because if you fumble there, that's what throws you off edge, and then you start to kind of, you can start to sabotage yourself, and that little monkey mind starts to. Whereas if you start off really well, it just gives you that little rocket boost, right? So that was a lesson I learned hard, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's a real pearl for people.
Well, those are hard lessons learned, right? Because there's many stories that I have of learning that lesson, right? Of doing a 3-hour program and sitting with a bunch of managers who look like they just got in trouble, right? And so I'm usually, all my jokes and stories didn't seem to be landing. People weren't laughing. I got nervous. I went through all my material, my 3-hour program, in an hour and a half. We took a break, and I had another hour and a half to go, and I didn't know what to do. And so part of my anxiety was, make sure you're always over prepared. If I got an hour program, I have 2 hours worth of material that I can take people through. So you can use that juice and that energy. It's a way of preparing you as well. I had another, I was on TV one time, and I was doing TV. I've done about 60 appearances, and so I was going back and doing Motivation Mondays on this local show. I think it was a CBS affiliate. And I remember I was getting more and more confident. So I showed up with 10 talking points, right? 10 tips, which is way too much for like a 3-minute segment. And I couldn't remember them all. And so I'm starting to draw a blank on TV. And that sucks, right?
So, I so relate to that. So when I first started doing TV interviews, same thing, right? I'd come with all these things that I wanted to say, and then I'd sit there, and then I'd try and sort of squeeze in when I'd only had 3 minutes, and I really didn't come across very well. And I don't know about you, but what really helped me was to drop that, to actually have some faith in, the knowledge that I'd acquired and the skills. And look at us right now. I mean, I can see you've done your prep, and I appreciate that you've got on, you've got to know a little bit about me as I have about you. But it's like, if we were both coming out with scripts and specific things I've got a few things that I thought I might share. Maybe I'll get to them, maybe I won't, but that's okay, right? Because for me, one of the big lessons, I started off in this business, I was very scripted. And, I'd come from the theater and film industry. So it was really important to me that, each word and, sentence was constructed well. And that worked to a degree. But I got to tell you, it took me a few years, actually, probably about 4 or 5 years in, where I started to loosen up and improvise a bit more. And I could really feel a difference in results. And I think part of it is, yes, I think we've all seen speakers who are way underprepared, and you kind of say, buddy, you want to go back and do some research and do some writing and just get clear, because, our time is short and precious, right? And we got an hour here, and, you want to really use that well. But I think there is such a thing as over preparation, where you now are so stuck within your script that you can't loosen it up a little bit and respond to what's happening right there and then, right? And one of the things we know, you were talking about, and I really feel this is an important point for people, because I kind of thought that I needed to be this sort of super slick guy, who had it all down. And one thing that I've realized is it's not about being super slick. And if you have the occasional or the R, or, you don't get a word out, that is far less important than if you have got conviction and passion and something to share, right? We've all seen speakers who, you look at a lot of TED Talks. A lot of those guys are not major professional speakers, and they come across beautifully, right? Because they're sharing from their experience, right? They're sharing their own personal stories, and they're real, and they're authentic, So let's remember that's it's not about. I don't know who it was who said that the best speaker doesn't make you go, oh wow, she's so smart. The best speaker makes you go, wow, I'm so smart, right? Up to your own ability and potential and greatness. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I 100% agree with you. I think that's one of the reasons why I share so many of the mistakes that I've made, right? Because people might see, all the social media posts of me dancing around on stage or being on TV or all that stuff. And then they're like, well, I can't relate. Like when I was first coming up, I was watching Tony Robbins, and, he's a millionaire at 21. And I'm like, I can't relate to that. But he would talk about all the things that went wrong, all the things, and I could relate to that. Yeah. And I could relate to building things up and then watching them crumble, or getting 80% there and then not being able to close the last 20%. And so I talk about that a lot. And I find that the people who you can relate with the most and trust the most are the ones that are showing that vulnerability. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's showing that you're secure enough that you can learn from your mistakes. And that is power, really. Vulnerability is power.
Oh man, that absolutely. And it's something that I've had to learn to do more and more. And whenever I do, I'll give you an example. And that's actually kind of an interesting story, because I keep talking about this telco, Vodafone, that I was just had a meeting with. Maybe that's why it's on my mind. About 17 years ago, when I was first getting into this business, I had a money back guarantee. And the money back guarantee was that if they didn't give me an A rating, they didn't pay. They didn't pay. Not because I didn't get an A rating. I don't think I got any rating. I was like, I bombed, man. I bombed. And I actually didn't work for them. I don't think it was a consequence of that. It's a massive organization. And I I don't think, the whole organization knew about it. They've got far more important things to think about than Justin Cohen's presentation. But I then did this year at the Sun City Super Bowl. Now, the Sun City Super Bowl is kind of what Africa's, trying to think of an equivalent in the States, but Frank Sinatra's played there. All the big kind of acts who come to Africa have played there. And I did my pitch to win presentation. I'm kind of boasting a little bit here, but the point of the story is I now go to the Sun City Super Bowl. That same organization that didn't pay me because I was so bad 17 years ago. And I'm now here back. And, I really share this just because, to your point, I want people to know, that it usually doesn't start off well. And finish this presentation, CEO contacts me afterwards and says, listen, man, I want to roll out pitch to win through our business, and that's actually part of what these ongoing meetings and the meeting I just came from now. And I put this on Facebook. And I was kind of like I had to say, so I literally told that story. I said, 17 years ago, now I guess maybe you could even argue, is that really true vulnerability, Justin? Because, actually you now have got a really positive, ending here. And so I'm still learning vulnerability, but I'll tell you that post of saying I bombed and I was so bad, I never got paid. And I actually wasn't big. I didn't do a kind of grandiose thing about it. I just said, and I've just, in fact, that's right. I didn't even, the CEO had contacted me later. So at that point, I'm back, and it, the audience clapped. It went well, and that's pretty cool. That post, oh my gosh, I got hundreds of responses to that post. People were just so touched by it. The comments, and I could see in the comments, it's because, one of my favorite quotes, Tim, is Aristotle: be kind to whoever you meet. Everybody's fighting a tough battle. And when we go out there and create this illusion of invincibility, we don't serve, I don't think we serve anyone that way, right? Because we can't connect with an illusion of invincibility, right? We really empathize through challenge, through pain. Yeah. So it was just a reminder to me of your point about the power of vulnerability, and it hasn't always been easy for me, but I'm starting to feel how just how people value that, and
that's beautiful, and it's not easy for anybody. We all have to learn these lessons. That's why we go through this. I always tell people that diamonds are not forged by being run through feathers, right? It's only through tremendous pressure over a long period of time that we emerge valuable and sparkly, and yet so strong that we can cut through steel. We can cut through those obstacles, and which most of them are in our mind. And so now I have one more question. I hate that we have to wrap up. I'm definitely going to have you back on the show because I have another half dozen questions that I haven't got to yet. So I'm definitely going to have you back on. But if you could, with all the life lessons that you've learned up to this point in your life, if you could go back and talk to 10-year-old Justin, what advice would you give him to prepare him for the future?
Wow. Sure. And that's a really powerful question, and it's kind of actually making me slightly emotional because I'm kind of thinking about I struggled as a kid, Tim, and childhood was tough. I struggled at school. I had some emotional difficulties at home, and so I'm trying to think what I would say, man. I'm really try and just answer this just straight, kind of my intuition. I think. This is more to my 10-year-old. I don't know how this is going to resonate for everyone else, but I think I would have told my 10-year-old self, hang in there. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be failures. And that's a good thing because that's how you're going to learn. That's how you're going to grow, and you're going to be better for it. So embrace it. I might have reminded him that, and this I got a little later, and I don't know who it was who said, but the best thing that ever happened to David was Goliath. So,
oh my gosh, that is great. Well, that is beautiful, and hopefully the little Justin inside of you has taken that and embraced that, because he's always been amazing, and now he's out there in the world. showing it and sharing it. And so, Justin, I have loved this interview. I've loved hanging out with you. This has been fantastic. Thanks so much for being mesmerizing today. And everybody make sure you go check out justinpresents.com. That's justinpresents.com. I'm going to have the links in the show notes for all his amazing books. And if you want to bring him in to work with your organization, I highly recommend that. Justin, any final thoughts before we check out here today?
Tim, I just want to thank you. What a beautiful interview. You really have touched me. And I really appreciated our time, and I look forward to reconnecting.
Yeah, me too. This is wonderful. So, all right, then hang on one second here. All right, great. And so everybody that has been on the program, thanks so much. I really appreciate you being here. Remember, if it wasn't for you, then this wouldn't matter. And so thanks so much for being mesmerizing. And we will see you next time. Make today a sure success. Bye, everybody. Hey, would you like more free tips on how to be a mesmerizing leader? Then check out mesmerizingleadership.com. And also hang out with me on Facebook, facebook.com/Tim Shurr. Thanks so much, and make your day a sure success.